Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. This part 4 of the before and afters is going to go at a fairly rapid pace because I've realised that I'm not getting that many plants in and taking quite a while to do them. So I'll probably drop a lot of the culture and things that I'm trying to add, probably to make it a bit more interesting, and just concentrate on the before and after bit. But before we start, we have spidery nonsense. This is Brassia tessa. The fragrance on this is powerful. Difficult to describe. It's, I'll just say spicy. I like it. Some are not so keen. But the plant's doing okay. There's a second spike there coming on behind. And yeah, this one's going on nicely. Another couple of things before we get going. Down here, we've got some Restrepias. I know they don't come out too good on videos compared with stills, but that's one of the ones I got a short while ago from the Eric Young Foundation. These are large blooms for Restrepias. They're actually very good. And the other one that I got from Eric Young has just put a bloom out as well. They look very similar, but they're different in size, and that one's got more spots within the stripes, if you know what I mean. Because they're all generally stripy or spotty. That's how they are, with their alien antennae sticking up. And this one down here, I've had this plant for a long time. Now that's more like the sort of size you get on a lot of Restrepias. I mean, that yellow just doesn't come out on camera. It's a vibrant yellow gold colour. It's beautiful, and that thing blooms on and off basically. And the other big one I've got hasn't got a bloom on it at all. So yeah, a few Restrepias out at the moment. This mooreana is getting tall. Bud's pushing on well. The second bud's coming along behind. Yeah, so they will be out together for some time because the blooms on that last ages. So that's good. What else have we got? This little gem up here, the blooms seem to be lasting quite well. Yeah, and there is that one with the damaged leaf. That's unusual for me. That's water damage. Naughty Roger. But there's some buds coming on that one too, and there's still some new growth. So I'm hoping to get like a continuation of blooms. Now, when this first opened, there was no sign of the yellowy orange in the middle. And it seems as the flowers age, that colour starts to come in. But pretty little blooms, and I like that. It's a nice little tidy plant. Another new growth out the back end there as well. So anyway, I'm hoping if I get blooms on all of the new growths, that should be in flower for some time. And that is the first time it's flowered as well. Right, stick that back up in the roof where it lives. And this thing over here has got buds on it. This is a Maxillaria, and it's Sophronites, and it again has tiny little red flowers. You can just about see one bud there, and there's another one on there somewhere lurking. Oh, there it is, down in there. There's another bud there. So they bloom from the base of maturing growths prior to them becoming fully mature. Well, that's what it does for me anyway. And I mean, as you can see, that growth there comes from back down there out of the side of that very mature growth and pushes up these extensions, and you can see the next extension coming out from next to the bloom. So that's another one out in flower. Other stuff, sunset's doing well, brightens up the place. And just as a general look, even in a grow room you get a feeling of autumn. Just the colours, yeah? I know they're dying leaves, but you know, there's a nice bit of yellow around. Don't take any notice of that cattleya. That's probably a dying plant. That's the rescue jobby from a while back. It's the one I threw away and got told off and had to bring back in. But yeah, you can see autumn colours. These are semi-deciduous type Dendrobiums. Those are last year's canes coming to the end of their second year, at which point they start to drop their leaves, or on that one they do. Same up the back there. That's Harveyanum. That was a star performer all through the spring, and it's got a spike there. So it's going to do it again soon. Actually, there's another spike up the back there too. But yeah, that's dropping some of its leaves as well. No panic. And then we've got this bulbophyllum thing that wherever it is at the moment, it's in the flipping way. I keep banging my head on it and knocking into the blooms. And this bloom with the kink in it, I've wired because the little bit of string that I had holding it up just wasn't working. So it's now got scaffolding to hold it in place. And the blooms look as though they're going to open properly. So there's enough energy just getting down through that kink to keep that one going. So yeah, there's Peter Comp still going. The Psychopsis is going okay. Vanda's still out, although that one is going over. That Vanda's still out, looking good. That spike's coming on up there. That'll be out soon. That's the nice orange one. That spike's pushing on well. That's the huge sort of white one with the tiny purple lip, if it ever gets there. Twinkle Cinnamon blooms on there. Oncidium Sweet Sugar up the back, pushing a spike. Those blooms are going to be open within the next few days. That should look quite good. Branching spike, you can see down the bottom. Yeah, the lower buds turn into branches, which then turn into lots more buds. It does well. So that's what's going on. And as I said, the before and after bit's going to go at a more rapid pace, shall we say. So let's make a start. On to the first plant. Okay, there's some plants it's just easier to do them all at once as a set, rather than go into each individual plant, go back to May, come back, go back. Yeah, it takes too long. So these are my Miltoniopsis. The good, the bad and the ugly, I'm afraid. That one on the end is just not doing very well. It's struggling like hell. Now, I mean, I had a lot of heat in here in the summer, and despite the fans going, there's a limit to how much heat this type of plant can take. It's a cool grower, you know, so they've struggled. But they're coming on now. I mean, two new nice growths on that one. This one's got signs of new growths and new roots pushing out, so that in the lower temperatures that should pick up better now. And this one's not doing bad either. Again, reasonable new growth. Yeah, got a few spots around on some of the leaves, but oh, that's not. Look at that. Oh, I thought that was a spike for a minute. I was going to say it's pretty pathetic if it was. But no blooms as yet. The one on the end, if that goes over, which it's highly likely to do, I've seen it all before, as they say, I will keep my eye out for another one. 4 is a nice number to have. I don't need any more than 4. Differing colours, yeah, so I can manage with 4. And given that they don't like the summer in here, they always struggle at that point. They'd need to have brilliant root systems, be fit as a butcher's dog to go into that sort of heat and come out the other end still looking good and fit and healthy. Okay, so let's go back and see what we had in May. Okay, so back in May, this plant was looking good. It had flower spikes on it, and I was discussing a problem because although the plant looked good and was pushing flower spikes out, the media was awful. And back then I was debating, what do I do? Do I risk the buds blasting to actually repot it, or do I leave it in the pots and risk losing the whole plant? Because the one thing Miltonias really don't like is breaking down media. It's probably the quickest way to lose your root system, apart from roasting them in the summer, which I obviously did. So yeah, I mean, it's a good looking plant, that one. As I say, I'm doing them as a set, but yeah, I mean, that plant was coming on well in May. I don't think the summer did it a lot of good, but hopefully it'll pick up. This one was actually in bloom at the time. That's why I keep Miltoniopsis. Look at that. I mean, they really are good blooms. I don't see how anyone can live without them, but then if you've got hot temperatures, these do not like it. And back in May I had some guests on the plant. We had some aphids. Note Roger's patented method of removing aphids that involves wiping them off with my fingers and squashing them. No spray at the time. It was just a very minor outbreak, and there were just a few on the buds of that plant. There were no signs of anything anywhere else, so that did the job at the time. I wouldn't recommend that. Damage your buds. Still, it worked at the time, and I think that one's called Her Alexander, but it was a no ID when I got it, so it's a guess. It's a pretty educated guess. That one was in bloom as well. This is the weaker of the plants, but beautiful blooms. Now, obviously, having gone back to May, there were only 3 there, so one of the ones in the before look must have been a purchase. So that's the one with the spottier leaves, the weaker one. So there we go. So that's the Miltoniopsis. That's where they actually live, down on the floor. Coolest place I've got. And there's one of my little computer fans just over there that keeps the air constantly moving around them. So that's the best I can do for them. Okay, on to the next one. Okay, this is Dendrobium hercoglossum, probably my favourite bloom. It's the blooms you see in my very last title as my videos close, you know, where I say thanks for watching or whatever I say. That's hercoglossum blooms. The plant itself is doing well. This one just grows well for me. It's a semi-deciduous with a strange growth habit. It does lose its leaves from the base of the canes, but the canes grow in stages through the years. So that's what it would have been as an early cane, and then it will have extended during the next year, and then it's still extending now, even though it's an old cane. These are the new canes up here. Good number of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 or 9 new canes. So yeah, it's done well. Let's go back and see what it was up to in May. It might have actually been in bloom. I can't remember the time of year, but it did do well and didn't get a formal winter rest and still bloomed, so I'm pleased with this one. Okay, so back in May we did have blooms, and it really is one of my favourite blossoms. They're not big, but you can see how I'm trying to capture the appearance of those blooms. They need to be against the light to get their delicacy, and yeah, it's still one of my favourite blooms. Now back then it's difficult to differentiate between the new canes and the old canes because they keep growing through the winter, but it's a good, strong, healthy plant. It's always grown well for me, as I've said. And those canes up there are relatively new. They've grown through the winter and on out into the summer, and they will bloom this coming spring along with the older canes. Yeah, that's how this plant grows. They extend in stages, and each stage takes its turn to bloom. So it blooms on older canes towards the tips. A smashing plant. Doesn't matter what I say, it's just a smashing plant. Okay, so that's Dendrobium hercoglossum. I just thought I'd zoom in on the roots just to have a word. A lot of these types of dendrobiums that are supposed to have the winter rest, they renew root systems. Yeah, so these are this year's roots. Some of them are down in the moss, obviously, but as you come into autumn and the plant shouldn't need as much water, it seems to start. The roots aren't dying, they just look old. They're not as bright and white as they used to be. And then next year it will push out a new lot. Yeah, that's just their cycle. So don't worry if your roots look as though they're dying off a bit in the autumn and into the winter rest. They'll all shoot out again next year, provided you don't kill the plant, obviously. Otherwise they really will be dead. But that's just what they do. So the shiny white roots won't look white as you go into the autumn and the winter. They'll start to go a bit brown. They're still working, but they don't need to work that well because you shouldn't be drowning them at that time of year. Their water should go down to a minimum, enough to keep the plant happy. And that is how long's a piece of string. A resting dendrobium cannot go bone dry for any length of time. It's got to get some moisture from somewhere. Now, if you spray your roots, that's fine. How often you do it, how long's a piece of string? That's entirely up to you and your judgment of what your plant looks like. These are nicely swollen canes. That's what they're supposed to look like. So when I reduce the water right down, if that changes in any way and starts to desiccate, I will water. But how long that takes before that happens really depends on temperatures, humidity levels, too many variables to even try and put down. So you just have to use your judgment. If you're going to rest dendrobiums, you can go the whole hog and do what some do and just not give them any water at all. If I did that, I know I would have some dead dendrobiums. They can't survive with no water. Apart from a desert, you know, and perhaps in the Arctic and Antarctic where they don't get rain, there is no such thing as no rain. Nowhere. Anywhere where these plants come from, base of the Himalayas, across through China, all through Burma, all the places that dendrobiums live do not get long periods of zero rain. They get much lower rainfalls to their summer monsoons and their heavy rain season. They get a light rain season, but they don't get zero rain. Check on weather stations. There's no such place as zero rain unless it falls as snow or it's a desert. Yeah? And as far as I know, orchids don't grow in either of those places. So, well, not the sort I've got. So, go steady with the winter rest. Don't let them start to desiccate, because if they go too far, you won't plump them up again. Okay, and having said I'm not doing culture, that'll have to do for all the other types of resting dendrobiums. Okay, this is Coelogyne mooreana. The Miltoniopsis, hercoglossum, and this one were requested by a viewer, so I thought I'd do them together. Yeah, now this has pushed up two nice new growths recently. That's this year's growths. This growth is doing well with nice leaves, and it's now pushing some roots out. It's a new plant to me. I didn't know how it was going to grow. I was a bit worried that these growths were pushing on at a rate of knots with no roots pushing out, but they're coming out now. So that's obviously its growth pattern. This, I have no idea. This came from Burnham Nurseries. When I get a chance and I see Sarah, I'll ask about it and I'll have a look at their plants. But something it didn't like. I don't know what. This growth was well underway when I got the plant, and it happened to the ends of those leaves as well. Even though that bulb has matured perfectly well, and even though those leaves are damaged, they still function, they can still photosynthesize. The bulb's mature, so it's capable of blooming. This one's the same. This new growth had a similar problem. I haven't found out what the problem is yet, but the fact that this new growth hasn't got it, I assume the problem's gone away. If the problem's gone away, the chances are it was heat, and it just couldn't cope with the heat earlier in the year. Okay, so let's go back and see what that one was like then. Okay, so back in May, you'll have to excuse the camera work on this one. It's waggling around all over the place. Must have had too much wine. But yeah, it's a plant I've been after for a long time, and you know, it's a Burnham special. And you know, I was discussing the fact that, you know, when you've got a plant on your list but it's expensive, what do? Walk away because of the price? No. So anyway, that's as it looked back in May. Relatively new plant for me, because I wasn't quite sure what it was supposed to do. But you know, I was just having a look at that. Was the older growth that had matured, but the latest of them. And I was just comparing the pseudo bulbs and the fact that this one was nice and plump and a similar size. That leaf problem was there at the time. Yeah, and again, I still don't know what it is, what it was, whether it'll ever come back again. And you can see that one of the two new growths that are there now was heading up for maturity at the time, and looked quite good at the time. Okay, so that's the Coelogyne. Okay, so that was Coelogyne mooreana. I do have quite a few Coelogynes dotted around, Quite honestly, they're of low interest to me until they bloom. And bearing in mind, I have yet to have a Coelogyne bloom in this grow room, they're of quite low interest to me. But, you know, it's growing, it's pushed up 2 nice new growths. So we'll see how it goes on. But at whatever time of year that thing is supposed to bloom, I think it will. Yeah? And when it does, it's quite a spectacle. So we'll see how we get on with that one. So those first 3 were requested by a viewer, so I've put them all together. Okay, on to the next one. Okay, this is Dendrobium jenkinsii. This is a genuine miniature dendrobium. It is small, you can see my hands on the end there, and that's the size of the plant. The bulbs always look a bit shriveled. They remind me of raisins or shriveled grapes, but that's what they're supposed to look like. You know, the older ones lose their leaves and go that purpley sort of browny colour, and the new growths push on in all directions. In my case, that's all new growth on the end there this year. Out the top, out of that end, poking out the middle of the plant in that case, and down the bottom. There are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 22, probably about 25 new growths this year. So the plant has, I hope, doubled in size. And has it bloomed? Has it hell? So with a proper rest, this one should bloom. Okay? And it's difficult to tell in its resting period whether it's starting to shrivel or not, for obvious reasons. So I'll just have to guess, won't I? Anyway, it's a good plant. I really do want some blooms in the spring. Let's go back and see how that looked earlier in the year. Okay, so back in May, some of the new growths we've got now were obviously underway. You can see them sticking out the end there. But yeah, luckily with this video back in May, we had a good look around the plant. So, you know, some of the new growths were underway because I didn't rest it in the winter, so they grew through the winter. And yeah, it was a good sized plant then. Very pleased with that one. So there we go, jenkinsii. One of my favourite dendrobium plants. Yeah? Not all plants have to be giants to be nice. I love this little plant. I just like the way it sort of just keeps pushing out new growths in all directions, and the roots burrow in and get in on the bark and even come out through the bottom. That's gone down inside the bark and come out the bottom. And some are aerial roots, but most tend to dive for the dark. Another new one there. So I love that plant. I just wish I can get some blooms, and we shall do the work this winter. There we go. Okay, another dendrobium. This is Dendrobium senile, because it looks old and grey like me, apparently. Yeah, this is doing strange things. This ought to be going into its rest. And as you can see down there, it's decided to start a new growth. And there's a new growth there that's still actively growing. That one's finished growing, terminal leaf. Yeah, it's dropped some of its leaves through the year. It attempted to grow a little kiki thing down there and pushed out some roots, and then the whole thing just stopped growing. There are new roots on this, but they're right in there, heading into the back of the bark, and some of the older roots showing there. I took a lot of the moss off because some of the external roots here on the outside were starting to rot, and it seems to have grown better roots, but I'm not quite sure whether this is growing well or not. I mean, that big cane there is a beauty, and it's still growing, so I can't start its rest yet. In theory, it might not even get one this year. It depends what it does with that new growth and that one. If they keep pushing on, then I take a risk. If I reduce the temperature, I might stop them growing, but I shall have to wait and see. It's going to get a rest anyway because it didn't bloom last year. We'll see how we do. So back in May, senile was grown through the winter, so the sort of canes that have got leaves on were the result of the previous year's new growths and growing on through the winter. But right at the top there, you can see the new growths that we've now got, one of which grew into a magnificent cane, the other one slightly smaller. But yeah, I mean, it grew well. It didn't bloom for me, although it did the year before, so it's coming on. So there we go then, Dendrobium senile. Strange little plant, but it has lovely yellow blooms. It has bloomed for me, but not this spring, it was the spring before, and I think that was somebody else's winter rest that produced those blooms, not mine. So we'll see what we can do this time. That's that one. Okay, we'll have a look at a couple of Tolumnias. I'm not going to do them all, obviously. There are 15 plants, that's just tedious, but I'll just pick on a couple. This one's doing very well. This one came from RHS show, I think, back in 2015. And this is a typical growth pattern for a Tolumnia. Yeah, it pushes out fans in all directions, roots come out the base of the fan. They make their way back down the plant to try and attach to things. I mean, this is attached well to the bark, climbing up there, all down through there, into the little bit of moss. I don't have a lot of moss on Tolumnias. I just have to water them more often. Right round the back. Yeah, so a good plant, and a very attractive flower as well. So I'll do a couple more and then we'll go back and find the set in May. Okay, this is a much smaller Tolumnia. This is Dapple, and again, similar growth pattern. You can see the oldest fan quite small, yeah, and then it's gradually working its way in a sort of creeping manner. New growth right round the back. Previous growth is the largest fan at the moment. Don't worry if you've got Tolumnias where the roots all look dead. They're not. That's just how they go. They're still active. If these roots weren't active, it wouldn't be pushing up new growths and strong fans like that. In the wild, these roots can go days and days and days without getting any water. So they do become browned, but they still work. Obviously, nice white ones look good as well. I think there's a nice white one creeping up the back there into the bark. Yeah, but they do go that colour eventually, and new ones will come out with the new growths. Yeah, so we'll add that one to the list. Okay, there's another one. This one's Big Bang, and this one's pushing on well. Yeah, you can see what I was saying. Some of the roots are the browny colour, some are white because they're newer, but they're still active, they're still going well. And this is pushing out new fans in various directions. And I'm hoping that I'm going to get a mass of Tolumnia blooms next season, because they were very light this year, but I did buy a lot of young plants. You know, they've got to get up to a reasonable size. So that's another one to the set. I'll do one more. Okay, there's another one. This is pushing out new growths in all directions. You can see 3 together there on that side of the plant. Yeah, there's another one deep in there, another one there, some small ones round there. So this one is growing in all directions. There's even one right round the back. This one looks like it's got a lousy root system. Yeah, well, they're hiding. Most of the roots are around the back. Yeah? I mean, in their natural place, a lot of these roots would be underneath the twigs in the shade. And any moisture that forms on those twigs naturally finds its way to the underside. And that's also the side of the twig that would dry the slowest away from the sun. So, yeah, that's the way they grow. That one's coming on well. I don't think that one's ever bloomed for me, so I've got high hopes for that one next year. So many new growths on it. If we get a spike on half of those new growths, we'll have quite a show. Okay, so that's 4 Tolumnias. We'll go back and see if we can find them in May. Okay, so back in May we had blooms. Yay! So that's Tolumnia peach. Out of the ones that have bloomed, so far that's my favourite, but we've got a lot more to go. It was a reasonable plant back in May. Some nice new roots pushing out. You can see the size of the plant. Just a note though, I was pointing out the fact that on that spike, I'd actually trimmed the spike and it had branched. So don't trim your Tolumnia spikes off. Okay, this was Dapple as it looked then. Quite a young plant. Yeah. Oh dear, oh dear. Yeah. So that's what that one looked like. That's coming on nicely now. This one was Big Bang. I think this was one of the job lots from Schwerter, because I bought 5 from Schwerter and 5 from a French nursery. But yeah, this one was doing well at the time. It was pushing out nice new roots. It was taking to its mount nicely. You can see the size of the plant as it was then. At that time I'd have been very pleased with that plant's progress. And then this is the one that likes the suntan. Yeah, this one is affected by light more than any of my others, and it does go a nice purple. It's not being damaged, don't worry, it's just a tinge, and if it was taken away from the light they would go back green. But as you can see, it had already started adopting the back of the mount for its new roots. So that's the Tolumnias. Okay, so that's a row of them up there. That's where they live, high up near the roof, bright light. And then the others, again, up in the roof, yeah, good light, nice bright light. And as I say, I've got 15 altogether in various stages. Some are very young plants, yeah, and some are getting quite large and maturing nicely. I'm hoping to get a good show of blooms next year. I've got enough of them, I should be able to get some blooms. We'll see how we go. Okay, that's Tolumnias. Okay, not strictly part of the May update, but I'll see what I can do. But somebody asked how the Deesas were doing and are they dead yet? Well, no, they're not dead yet. One bit is. If you remember the repotting video, there was a long offshoot, basically, whatever you want to call it, with no roots on and some signs of rot. Yeah, well, that keeled over within about a week of moving it. However, the other 3, you know, I mean, okay, that's a tiny little plant, and that's not much better, and that one's not too bad. But they're not dead. They seem to have taken from their repot. So we'll see what happens with those next year. Okay, this is one of the Phalaenopsis types. This is Thai Angel, and until I go back and look at this, I haven't got a clue how big those new growths were back in May. They might not have grown much, they could have grown all of that, I don't know. So we'll have to go back and have a look. Okay, so this is a good one to look back on, because the new growths we can now see were just tiny little shoots, only one at the time. So this didn't look much back in May at all. It's done well since. That's its original cane, and this is a misconception, because although this bit of video actually shows little buds on this cane, they actually turned out to be kikis and have started new plants. So there we go, Dendrobium, Phalaenopsis type Thai Angel, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if those are signs, because they're certainly not leaves, so that's the nubbins of what will be a flower spike. The one, when I bought it, actually had 2 spikes coming out of the top. But we shall see. Okay, so that's one of the Phalaenopsis types. Okay, and this is a change of habit just to end on. You've all seen me water in previous videos, much to some people's annoyance. I tend to put my water and feed in there, and then I hold the plant over the top and use the plastic glass there to pour water through the pot straight back into the bowl. It's called reusing water, and it's never given me any problems, but it's a problem that could occur, so why risk it? And certainly as I go into the winter and the temperatures drop, the chances of problems occurring for me get higher. So I'm de-risking it. So we have a change of habits. And what we have now is my water and feed, something to get it out of the bowl in, and a hand sprayer to put it into. So the idea is I'll fill my sprayer up, and then I'll spray the plant with as much as I think it needs, which also allows me to just spray the surface roots if the pot's still quite wet halfway down towards the bottom. So I don't have to get the whole plant wet. And the wastewater will go through the pot into there, not to be used again. So I'm sure that will please some people that have always been worried about that sort of thing. I've been sharing water for years and I don't believe I've ever had a significant problem, but nonetheless that doesn't mean to say it can't happen. So, changing my habits, whether I'll be able to keep up with that next summer, I don't know. When the plants really do need soaking, and I'll have to pour water through the pot at a rate of knots. 2 or 3 glassfuls through each pot. Think how much water I'd be wasting, because out of those 2 or 3 glassfuls, nearly 2 or 3 glassfuls will come out the bottom of the pot. Well, what do I do with that wastewater and the feed that's in it? So we'll see, excuse me, what happens next summer. Okay, I'll end on that then, a change of habit for the winter at least, and possibly the spring, but we may go back to the old ways in the summer. We'll have to wait and see. Okay, thanks for dropping by, and see you again next time.